What's up guys, welcome to my channel. This is Kanyasishi and welcome to Light Views. So I just finished watching WandaVision episode 7. I thought I was going to bundle them all up together, the second half of the show, all the other episodes into one review, but episode 7 was too groundbreaking. There were too many awesome things that happened at once that made me decide, you know what, I had to talk about this. I just need to vent. And I just watched it literally a few minutes ago. I still have bits of it still stuck in my brain, so I just wanted to share my thoughts while it's still fresh. First and foremost, episode 6 and 7 together. So episode 6 we left off with we explored Pietro Maximoff. We explored who he was, what he was doing there, what he said he was doing there, and it seemed like it makes sense. And even the questions he was asking and the things he was saying, they made sense. But the nature of some of the questions he was asking made you very suspicious of him. One of the questions I think that everyone was like, that doesn't sound like something a goofball like Pietro Maximoff for us. Was about like how she was controlling it, how she was managing the people, all that sort of thing, where she was keeping the children. Those are like questions that are behind the scenes, like what's all this about? Those director's questions basically, like how are you managing this? This is from behind the camera kind of questions. So those kind of questions really made me especially go, really Pietro? Why would you ask that? It threw some suspicion on him. So a lot of people were thinking that, okay, Pietro is not the real Pietro. I kind of didn't want it to be. I wanted him to be the real Pietro. But another thing that he said that made me realize, no, it's not the real Pietro, was the way he spoke about how he died. There was a value in his heroic death. And that sort of value, as a person who did something like that, you wouldn't say died like a schmuck about something that you intentionally went out of your way to do, something that character-defining moment.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
So that was one of the other things that made me go like, I don't like that. So anyway, things changed as well for Vision. Vision decided he wanted out because he was starting to see that the situation that Wanda created was hurting people. We saw that in episodes 4 and 5. But when he went around investigating how much it affected people, and he saw what people who were far from Wanda were experiencing, how they were unable to move because Wanda's power wasn't sustaining them or keeping them going, and it just froze them in these weird stop-start motion, weird things. And it was very traumatizing to see, especially because you could see, for example, there was one woman who was hanging up decorations with a tear down her face, and you could see that there's someone in there, but they're also feeling pain. So Vision decided, you know what, I need to do something about this. So he decides he needs to go out of the Hex and try to get help. But when he leaves the Hex, he starts deteriorating because he's been sustained by the Hex. And Billy and Tommy get their powers. Wiccan and Speed, those are their superior names in the comic books. But Wiccan, Billy, figures out that can start hearing his father's voice, so he starts to tell his mother that the situation has gone wrong. And Wanda, in order to prevent Vision from dying, expands the Hex, showing how much power she actually has, raw power, but also showing how much control she has, and how, but not just power, but how willing she is to keep to keep Vision alive, to keep this version of Vision alive. And what I absolutely love about this episode, episode 6, is that we see Vision's true character. Now, for me, the question has always been, is this really Vision? Is this an animated puppet? But we're seeing here that he's going against Wanda's wants. He's going against what Wanda would want him to do. So his character is very much his own. She's not in control of his character. She's in control of reality to a certain extent, but the Hex reality, but she's not in control of who he is. He still he's willing to sacrifice himself to help others. He could have very easily started to turn around and gone back into the Hex, but he needed to get the message across to someone that the people inside Westview need their help. And he does that, but obviously the director A-hole, decides that he just wants Vision. He's not really interested in him. And we find out why in episode 7. And this is something that was obvious, not obvious, but something that had been hinted at in the previous episodes, that SWORD had been keeping Vision's body because they wanted to use Vision for their own desires. They wanted an animated Vision so that they could use him and program him to do what they want. He is an ultimate weapon. He has so many interesting features and powers that they really wanted to use for themselves. I mean, this is why they had his body separated into many parts at the facility, because they were trying to reanimate him. But we see also that we hear also that the whole goal and mission of this of the SWORD party is just to extract Vision. They're not interested in helping the people. They're not interested in helping Wanda. But we have an agent there, Monica Rambeau, who has been very much on the ground trying to help everyone in the situation, because she is a superhero at heart. And now, spoilers for episode 7, although I'm always doing spoilers here, she's a superhero in the realized. Now, we'd already been told in episode 6 that Monica, if she goes back into the Hex, things would be weird for her, because the Hex rewrites reality, it rewrites objects. And we've been seeing examples of that. Her uniform had been written to those 70s era clothes, and it wasn't just a it wasn't just a costume change, it was an actual rewriting of it. But the thing is, the Hex rewrites everything, including humans. So it was rewriting Monica as she came in and as she came out. And Monica's already been twice, so that was a red flag. This episode 7, she pushes right through. She knows the risks of going in, but for the sake of helping the people and for the sake of wanting everyone in the Hex to be safe, she pushes through the Hex again for a third time, even though the initial plan of the space vehicle, the rover vehicle that she was supposed to use, failed. It initially could start pushing through, but then the Hex started intelligently rewriting the vehicle, and they threw it out. And Monica decided, she has to push through. And we have a moment as we're watching Monica hearing voices from her past, her mother's voice, Captain Marvel's voice, all these voices telling her these things, and she has a moment where I really feel like she could have been rewritten herself, but she has a moment where her will decides, no, I will go through this as myself. And she collects herself to herself, and she emerges as Photon, I believe. And we do see sparks of her powers when she pops through. She's able to see all the spectrums of all the wavelengths and all the different spectrums of light and whatnot as her eyes change color. And then she snaps back and gets on mission. And when she confronts Wanda as well, she has a moment where she snaps back as well as Wanda's trying to attack her, but she uses her powers, and you can see it because Wanda's power, as I said, is shown through the color red. And the colors are actually very important in this episode. The colors are very, very important in this episode. But her powers, Monica's, are shown as a blue undertone. And we see it again as she slammed down into the ground. There's the powers of blue undertone, and it lets us know that, and even Wanda's facial expression as she slammed down on the ground is a sign of power. That this wasn't Wanda doing that. That was Monica's own power coming through. So we're seeing that the sisters are doing it for themselves, and that one sister is definitely doing it for everyone else. So the big episode 7 reveal is that it was all Agatha Harkness. This is something that people have been theorizing when they first saw Agnes, that this is probably Agatha, and because of some of the way that she's been behaving and her placement and her timing and whatnot, it's always been suspicious. But now she owns up to all of it. She tells Wanda what she's all about. But for me, what I really loved is that I'll get to the plot device of what was happening. But the one thing I really loved about this is that they show us all the things that she's been doing from the first episode up until now. Not everything, but the signs of her meddling. And that's essentially what Agatha has been doing. She's been meddling. and her ulterior motive isn't necessarily shown yet, but we're shown that there obviously is an ulterior motive, and that she wants something from Wanda, and that she's powered like Wanda. She has telekinesis, she closes the door, but she has a spell book as well, which tells us, and she's got an underground basement of horror, witchy stuff. So she's definitely a witch. She's definitely not like everyone else, but her colors that are shown are purple. So when she closes the door is shown to highlight purple. And when she, very very important, mind controls Wanda, Wanda's eyes and parts of the temple highlight and light up as purple, showing us that Agatha is now in control. Big important thing, I had said before that I suspected that the goal was the children and to extract power from Wanda. And one of the things that happens is that Wanda notices that something is wrong, for the fact that the children who had been gone over to Agatha Harkness place are not obviously visible. I mean, if you have kids there, you can hear kids, but if there's silence, throwback to the episode, then something's wrong. Now, what I absolutely love about the way they're treating the Agatha versus Wanda, which I suspect there is going to be a fight, because I don't think Wanda's going to succumb to the power that easily, or if he does, Vision could come through and help him. So that's a space that something could happen. One of those things could happen. But what I do suspect, yes, Vision is on his way. Sure, that's going to be interesting. That's for next episode. But what I do suspect is that, well, not I suspect, what I do appreciate is that all along we've been made to believe that Wanda is being, the narrative that has been trying to push is that Wanda is the one who's responsible for all the evils here. And the people have been very loud about this, vocal about Wanda being, the evil is this. Is obviously the director, but obviously the director has ulterior motives. And even Monica herself, when she initially came out, she was of the belief that Wanda was in control because of her experience at that point. But she also recognized that Wanda isn't, therefore, isn't doing it out of a sort of evil intent, out of harm or terror, as the director Hayward wanted to put it, but because she's going through trauma. And what I absolutely love is that now we are seeing this narrative being completely turned upside down, in the sense that if Wanda had been left alone, the bad things that were happening actually wouldn't have happened. So Agatha was responsible for all of the bad things happening in Westview. But at the same time, the Hex itself is still a problem. So if Agatha didn't interfere, Monica could have helped her and she could have come out of there and they could have sorted the situation out. And we see this because Agatha, when Monica is confronting Wanda about bringing down the Hex, Agatha intervenes at that moment. And she comes in as a doting best friend, but obviously her motives are there to keep Wanda in the Hex. And again, this is telling us that keeping the Hex up is extremely important to Agatha. She needs the Hex up. She needs Wanda there in the Hex because there's something that she wants from Wanda while she's in the Hex. So we see that, again, I suspect the initial starting point of the Hex was Agatha, and the powering up of the Hex was definitely Wanda. So she needs something from Wanda, and I suspect she wants to absorb Wanda's powers for herself and become more powerful, or she wants to perform a ritual and wants to bring up the big bad, her husband Ralph. The themes that are being told through these past 2 episodes have always been are very very powerful to me, because obviously it's woman empowerment, but the other themes are more for me the important parts. The narrative of, if you don't vilify a woman and you actually have a confident and you actually talk to her and you engage with her, you could, not a woman, but anyone who's in grief, if you don't vilify them and you actually engage with them, there's so much more work that could be done. Just as Monica, her whole intention isn't to kill Wanda. She says in episode 6 that if the problem is Wanda, then Wanda is also the solution, because Wanda is the one with the powers to sort the situation out. And if they don't stop the situation, the people who are in the situation, in the Hex, the people in the Hex are going to keep suffering as those in the outskirts are suffering. So I really believe that the theme that they bring about it, that conversation, obviously, and dialogue are the ways in which issues can be resolved. That's a very interesting one. But more importantly, that a level of understanding is necessary when you're engaging with someone who has a problem, who has a conflict that needs to be resolved. When someone is in grief, you don't send them off somewhere, you don't cut them off from power and whatnot. You engage with them, you converse with them, you be human with them, just as Monica has been. Monica has been very, very humane with Wanda. People who I really feel for in this episode, who I really felt were the biggest victim. The biggest victim, I think, of this entire book or the Hex is still Vision. Vision is being told about his death and the traumas that were visited on his wife, who he loves, and who Darcy reiterates that she definitely loves. From what she's seen, that they definitely love. Vision is still the one who's going to have to be there to save his wife, and he's not really himself. He's not fully himself because he doesn't remember dying. He doesn't remember becoming an Avenger. He doesn't remember all these things happening to him. But the character of being a hero and going in to save his wife is still there because he still loves her. So is that still really Vision? I think it really is. I think it really is the Vision. Will he be able to somehow survive past this series? I don't know. And how will things be resolved? We obviously suspect, because we're the nerds and the geeks and the people who like to stitch things together, that Doctor Strange will come through and help her out. But before then, before the Multiverse of Madness starts, there really is going to be the actual big bad reveal, or Agnes's big plan for bringing Ralph into the realm, and there is going to be a fight. I really do believe that Wanda and Agatha Harkness are going to have a big fight, and that's going to be interesting. I also believe that the kids, the boys, the twins, are also going to accelerate it once more to a point where they can help Wanda out, and they're going to stay at that point, because I think the whole reality is going to have to be, the Hex is going to have to be collapsed and ended. What happens after that is going to be interesting. Will Wanda be able to accept the reality of her husband, Vision, possibly dying, and close down the Hex for the sake of keeping Agatha at bay and for the sake of the lives of the residents of Westview? It's interesting to see. Will she be willing to risk her twins, who might also disappear once the Hex disappears? That's also going to be interesting to see. But I do believe one of the narratives we're going to find is that Wanda is going to be willing to sacrifice those things, because as much as Director Hayward and portions of the plot have been trying to push along the fact that Wanda's bad and what she's doing is wrong, Wanda recognizes that she's still a good person on the inside, and that what she's doing is as a result of her grief and her mourning. But she is going to accept her grief and mourning and accept that these things need to come to an end, and that for the sake of the people of Westview and for the sake of the damage that Agatha is going to do, she needs to end it. And of course, because Vision is willing to sacrifice himself for the people of Westview, he is also going to be one of the people who pushes her to say, Wanda, this isn't how I want you to bring me back or keep me alive or whatever. So I suspect that's something that's going to happen in the future as well. All in all, WandaVision is still a 10 out of 10 show. We didn't think they could top, I didn't think they could top the big ending of episode 6, and they did. Episode 7 was just perfect. And the way they did it, the Agatha Harkness, the book of spells that she's got there, the underground thing, the manipulation that she's shown, and it's all done very well as well. This is what I love about this cast. The actress who plays Agatha or Agnes, she has a sass about her, the witch isn't your stereotypical old woman, crooked nose, mole at the end of it. oh, though she didn't mention them all, which was actually a very cool Easter egg to let you know that she is the witch. But all these things that she does, these character traits, they're very well acted, they're very well portrayed, they're very well embodied, and you really fall into the fact that this is Agatha Harkness, and I really love that about this cast. Again, 10 out of 10 to Elizabeth Olsen for her acting for Wanda. The stress that she shows at the beginning of the show, her trying to block it out, all of those little quirks that she shows, absolutely love it, because you really embody the fact that she knows she's done something wrong. She accepts that in the first, and they do it through a comedic way to sort of lighten the mood, because it's kind of the TV show way of doing it. But the reality of the fact is that she's acknowledging that what she did was wrong, and she even says she's putting herself in time out, which again shows that the possibility of her ending this is still there. Vision, 10 out of 10 again. Paul Bettany, 10 out of 10. I love his portrayal of Vision. I love his care, his consideration, his little facial quirks where he lets you know without literally saying, his body language, everything was just perfect. The little reaction, the Darcy and Vision interaction was on point. Monica Rambeau, Teyonah Parris, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The star of the show for me was definitely Teyonah Parris. Her becoming Monica Rambeau or Photon or the new Captain Marvel, absolutely love it. We've been waiting for this hero since Captain Marvel 2 was announced, and she was announced as being Monica Rambeau. Seeing her in the show, and this is what I wanted to say actually last week, but I didn't get a chance to add it on. They actually were debating not adding. Initially, she wasn't actually part of the crew of the cast that was going to be Teyonah Parris. She wasn't going to be on WandaVision. The writers decided to add her after reading the comic books and seeing that she was actually intertwined with the WandaVision storyline. And honestly, I don't think this show would be what it is without her. The story is still very much a WandaVision story, but she brings this extra thing that just brings it together, the humanity of it, because Monica Rambeau is a person, but she's one of the few people who really cares about helping Wanda and the people of Westview. So this has been an amazing past episode. So anyway, that's all for me. I think maybe next episode, I'll do 2 episodes again, because then we have a lot more content to talk about, and my thoughts are much more fresher as well after considering all the things, because episode by episode, again, it's only 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes of show. So yeah, it's really interesting. Oh, we also had a post-credit scene, and I now want to figure out who is Pietro. Is he really Pietro under mind control? I don't know. It seemed like something Agatha is responsible for Pietro being there, but in what sense? Is he from another reality, or is he someone whose face has just been changed to look like? Is Pietro what do they call him? A sidekick? Not a sidekick. What do they call him? A lackey. Yeah, is he a lackey for Agnes? Don't know yet, but hopefully not. Hopefully he's on realized character. I really want a Pietro, especially that Pietro there. Maybe it's just he's from that reality, but he's just being messed around with his head. That's my hope. Could just be someone else, but anyway. That's all from me. Check you guys out in the next episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe.